This video is a story of how I took one of these and turned it into this. Hi everybody, it's Katie, and today I have another weird project for you. I want to cast a cicada shell in metal. I have been wanting to cast one of these guys in metal for probably about as long as I wanted to cast an ear in metal. Now again, I didn't have the equipment before, so what I did was I electroplated a cicada shell in copper, and so I have this little guy here. But today what I'm going to do is I'm going to be making an RTV mold of this guy, which stands for room temperature vulcanization. I typically will do heat vulcanized rubber molds when I do casting, but today I have some new casting rubber. I have this here. This is Castaldo Liquid Fast Ice transparent RTV silicone resin molding rubber. And what drew me to this was that when you're finished, the mold is clear. So that should help with me cutting open the mold. I've had some issues cutting open the molds in the past, not getting my seam of the mold like right on the edge of the object that I'm trying to cut out because I can't see it. So this should be good for that. Also, the reason that I went with this brand in particular was because one, it cures pretty quickly. So the work time is 15 minutes and the cure time is 60 to 90 minutes. So I don't have to wait a really long time for this to be cured. So it's a 1-to-1 mixing ratio. So I thought, well, that's very convenient. Like I don't have to try to figure out, what 1/10 of something is. I can just mix this up. I think I'm officially in my weird girl era and I'm pretty excited about it. And this is the year of the cicadas, so, this summer they're going to be screaming their little heads off. So I thought this was as good a time as any to cast a cicada shell in metal. Let's get started. Okay, so I've got my mold frame here. I need to use some wax to attach my little cicada dude into the mold frame. I haven't used these before, so I need to peel off the backing. Let's do that satisfying peel. Well, that was not satisfying at all. Well, that last one was pretty good. These rubber bands are like super tight. I'm not really sure how they expect me to get these over everything. I figured it might be entertaining for you to watch me struggle. Because I can get it over part, but then I need to... Oof. Oh, there we go. Okay. They're really tight, which is, I guess, a good thing because you want it to hold your mold together. But now I need to do the other side. I'm kind of scared these are going to snap and fling into my face. So we're going to pour this into this cup. This into here. Okay. And I'm supposed to mix this for 3 to 4 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to take this out to my vacuum table. There are just like so many bubbles. I wish I could have showed you guys when I first started doing it. It was insane, the bubbles coming out. I think it had just so much air trapped inside of the cicada's body. Look at that giant bubble right there. Look at it. Oh, look at it. Oh my gosh. All right, hopefully it comes out good. So this is what it looks like after it cured. It looks like one of those bars of soap that has a toy inside. You have to use the whole bar of soap just to get the toy out. here I am cutting open the mold. And we have a mold. I went ahead and cut it open to retrieve our model. Unfortunately, our little electroplated cicada friend did not make it. Trying to remove him from the mold ended up causing me to rip off all of his legs except two. And he's completely filled with the mold material now as well, and it's even coming out of his legs. Look, there's one of his legs got ripped off, but there's still like mold making material inside. So that's sad, but hopefully it's not all in vain. Hopefully we'll be able to get some really cool metal cast cicadas and it will be all worth it. So I did go ahead and run some test injections on the mold in pink wax. I did get some decently good models. Not completely filled all the way to the toes, but pretty good. But I want to do these in purple injection wax, and currently I have pink injection wax in my little wax injection pot. I did try to do this thing that I had seen on YouTube where people used a marinade injector as a wax injector, and I thought, oh, maybe I can do that instead of emptying my pot and filling it with purple wax. But alas, that was not a very good option. I feel like I burnt my fingertips in the process. So we're not gonna do that. We're gonna go to the studio, we're gonna melt the pink wax out of my pot, put purple wax in, and then hopefully get some really good injections into our cicada mold. So that flask that you just saw, unfortunately, did not cast well at all. I was having a rough week where an animal died under the building where I have my shop. And so we couldn't get to the animal to remove the body, and my classroom is where it chose to have its final resting place, and so I couldn't do classes. So you know how when chaos happens, it seems to just pile on, and that's what happened. I went to cast this flask, and I took the flask out to make the investment that you pour over top of the models, and I forgot to put tape around the flask because it's a perforated flask, so it has holes in the flask. So if I were to pour plaster in that, it would just seep out the holes. So I started mixing the plaster, and you have this working time that you've got to get this finished in, and I started mixing the plaster, and then I was like, darn it, like I didn't put tape on this. So I finished mixing it, got my tape, taped the flask up, poured the investment in it, put it in the vacuum chamber to get the bubbles out, and the level started going down, and I was like, that's not bubbles just being, evaporate, that's not just bubbles. So, I turned everything off, and it was leaking out the back. I didn't tape it well, apparently, on one section, and it was leaking. And so I got more tape, and I taped it all up, and, sealed up the hole, topped off the flask, and I thought, okay, I'm good. It's okay. We're going to do this. I steamed the wax, the flask, put it in the kiln, 8 hours later, ready to cast, right? And I went and I weighed my metal, made sure I had enough metal, and I was thinking to myself, this doesn't seem like enough metal. And I looked at my weight, and I checked the weight, and I re-weighed it, and I was like, it's enough. And I was like, well, the models are pretty thin, so maybe that's why, I guess, because, this, I don't know. So I went ahead and I put the metal in my furnace, and I melted the metal, and then I stirred it to make sure everything was melted before I was going to pour it in my flask. And I was like, this doesn't seem like a lot of metal. But I was like, no, Katie, you measured, you calculated, like you did this. And I should have stepped back and taken a minute and went back and looked at my sheet and like figured it out, right? But everything was ready to go. And I was just like, I got stuff to do. Let's do this, My mind was at the shop with the animal smell. And so I went and I got the flask out, put it on my casting chamber, poured the metal, and as soon as I poured the metal, I knew that I had screwed up for sure because the metal just sucked into the flask. And usually you have a button at the top, which is a blob of excess metal that helps push the metal into the mold. I had none of that. It just sank right through, and I had nowhere near enough metal. And so that casting was completely ruined. I did end up with this guy. He looks like he is emerging out of the ground, so that's the top of my cicada. None of my little clasps or anything came out. He might be cute if I put a tie tack on him, and then he'll look like he's coming out of my chest like some sort of zombie alien bug. But it didn't work, which was really, really upsetting, especially for the whole week that I've been having. But what are you going to do? So I had more injections I had already done, sprued it back up. This time, instead of doing with the clasps, I had some rings that I wanted to cast, so I sprued those up with the cicada and did an extra big flask, and that is what you're going to see me casting next. Let's roll those clips. Hi, so we're getting ready to cast this flask. Hopefully this is a good angle for you because it's propped up on a table and I have no other way to hold it out here in the studio space. So let's go. Well, it looked like it poured in there good. I have a button at the top, so this time I did measure the correct amount of metal. When the button is no longer glowing red, I will quench it, and hopefully we will have all our pieces cast really well. Look at that glowing red button right there. Yeah, that's some hot, hot metal. So you guys ready to see what the final piece of jewelry looks like? What's that? Come again? Oh, yes, my hair is different. Don't focus on that. But this video took a really long time to film and I wanted to be a mermaid. So, are you ready to see the final piece? Let's go. This is my masterpiece for 2024. This is the cicada brooch necklace. It features a sterling silver cast cicada shell with a peridot set inside of his body. It has cicada wings that hang off the bottom, and then there's actually a tube that runs up the back of the cicada's body, so it's fully adjustable, and you pin the cicada onto your outfit wherever you want it to be crawling to adjust the drape of the necklace and also how long these guys hang here. But just look how cool he is. Look at that detail. His little face, his little antennas, his little legs. Look at that.